All right, in this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to handle overages on a project, how to deal with them, explain them to a customer, and at the end of the day, make sure that you're getting paid so that you don't lose money, it doesn't eat into your profit, and ultimately end up with a ruined relationship between you and the customer. All right, let's get into it. So right off the hop, I want to talk a little bit about contracts. Contracts is what you need to start every single project with. If you're not currently using a contract, then you need to make one and get something in place right away. But if you are, there's some key wording that is important in your contract that will help you explain to customers and have them understand that this is an estimate and not a quote. Typically, a quote is like, it's going to cost 10 grand, you pay 10 grand. You pay exactly what somebody says, right? You get a quote for a new car, or you get a quote for an appliance. But an estimate is just that, okay? So you need to convey that it's an estimate and that you track your expenses, and that's how you come up with what your final cost is, okay? So it's crucial to have your clear terms regarding the budget and how it works in your contract. And here I've got a couple examples of things that I use in my contracts, doing over $1 million a year in hardscape that we use. So we did it in two different ways. The first one here is with regards to how we did our installment or our payment schedule, right? So they had to give me a deposit that was the amount of tax, X numbers of dollars upon signing, okay? Then we had another installment maybe a week ahead of time. Depending on the size of the project, it was maybe 2 weeks, or maybe there was 2 or 3 installments in the middle. But for this example, it's one, okay? This is what you owe us just for us to show up. And then this is what I want to focus on. It's this third one that's really important to have, is that the final payments to be calculated with any adjustments and will be due upon receipt and final inspection. Estimated, that would be the balance of your original estimate, plus or minus any adjustments, okay? So this is the point where you have an option to convey to the homeowner, to the client, whoever it is, that these projects are estimates. We're going to track our numbers, but so that you know any additional costs that come up in making sure that you get a proper delivery, a proper installation will get added on at the end, knowing that we're going to track it all the way through, okay? Another one that we included, which was directly below this, was this one here. I had them fill in their name. I have 2 spots because they're usually a partner, have read and agreed to all terms and pricing outlined in this proposal, right? They're agreeing to everything. I understand that in projects of this nature, that additional unforeseen costs can occur, and that any and all potential changes to this proposal or unforeseen costs will be approved by both myself and the contractor before proceeding, and then they initial it, okay? This is to help build the trust again, because you just told them their project may cost more than they're agreeing to pay. You're going to lose a little bit of trust. But now you're going to regain that by saying, listen, if anything comes up, I'm on top of it. I'm going to let you know, and it won't be this big surprise at the end, okay? I would have customers, they would go, okay, what's this? I'd explain it to them. Typically, they didn't even read it. They just went ahead, wrote in their name, and initialed it. 'Cause again, we're rebuilding the trust here, all right? Now, lastly, I do want to say, before you use any new kind of contract, it doesn't hurt to get some legal advice for it. That's one of the things I did. I took my contract, I then took it to my lawyer, had them look at it, they made some suggestions, I made some changes, and we went from there, okay? Take a contract, whatever you have right now, make the alterations you need to, and then get it reviewed. Make sure you're not missing anything, or make sure you don't have something in there that you're not allowed to have, okay? Very important. Next, I want to talk about consistent tracking, okay? I got into this in the first little bit, but consistent tracking is super, super key to making sure you don't go over on a project, but that when you do, that you're on top of it and you notice it right away, okay? Daily tracking on the job site, it needs to be done, right? All of my clients have access to the highly tailored spreadsheets and the calculators that we have to track their job site progress and their expenses. But other programs like Jobber, other software like Jobber works too. It just comes with a monthly cost, right? No, at the end of the day, the stuff that my clients use, the same stuff I use to scale over $1 million a year, and there's no ongoing cost to use that stuff, all right? The other way that you stay consistent on your tracking is with weekly reviews, all right? You're going to review the money that's being spent. Your project lead should be tracking every day. They're gonna let you know if there's a big overage, but weekly you're gonna review. Where are we at? Are we where we're supposed to be? Did we go way over on labor? What is it that we need to know about now so that we can let the homeowner know, okay? Really, really important. And this brings me into section 3, which is bringing up your overages to your clients, all right? So timing, when to talk about the budget overages with the clients, right? Do you want to call them up in the middle of the day and be like, hey, we're over on labor, yada, yada? No, you don't want to do it that way. But when you've given your weekly review or when you've received it from your project manager, if something is up there that you know you're not going to be able to account for, that's when it's time to have that conversation. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. homeowner, client, whoever it is, listen, while we were in the excavation phase, we found this, we had to do this. Whatever it may be that came up, listen, we had to relocate this thing because it was in the way. We had to do more hand digging because of something we found in the ground. Whatever it is, this is the time to bring it up. Like, listen, we are continuing to work at keeping this number either where it is or being able to lower it by finding other money in the budget. But we want to let you know so that you're not surprised. Here's what we're thinking the overages is from this week. I want to make sure you're okay with that, right? Get that signed off on and then be able to proceed. You definitely want to do this in a professional and an empathetic manner, because at the end of the day, you've made an agreement with them to do the work. I know it was an estimate, but now you've got that extra cost, that surprise, right? You don't want to wreck that relationship. So you definitely want to bring it back down if you can to budget, all right? Lastly, I did mention this already, but you want to be super clear with the customer, because the transparency at the end of the day is how you rebuild this trust. If you're starting to lose some trust with the overage, also know that sometimes homeowners are very strict, or clients are very strict on budget, as you may already be aware. So know that if you are getting overages, having this transparency may give you an opportunity to change something down the line. Like, let's say they picked a paver that was $10 a square foot. Maybe your supply yard stocks them, right? So it's not like it's a special order or anything. Maybe being 1,000 or 2,000 over on something that happened that week is enough for them to want to change the material, okay? Maybe if they can drop down to an $8 or $7 square foot product, maybe we can bring that budget back in line, and then you can finish the job at the right number for them. Whatever it may be, find out and work with them to keep it to budget if that's what the most important thing is. If it's just the overall longevity of the project and the quality, then keep doing what you're doing. Just let them know it's going to cost a little more. They'll likely be okay with that if quality and the longevity are more important than just the budget, okay? From there, how do we charge back our extra costs? So this is section number 4 here I want to talk today. Again, make sure that you're documenting everything, okay? This is key for full transparency with your clients. I use a job tracker. I always did, so do my clients. They can show that to the customer, show them where the overages are and the costs associated with it, so they know exactly what's happening and they feel at ease with the transparency here, okay? Invoicing. When do we do this? Well, I always did it at the end of the project, okay? If I go back up here to section number 1, where we talked about plus or minus any adjustments, this is on our final payment. The extras, they went in there, okay? That's the great thing about the job tracker that we have, is that it actually will spit out whether or not you owe money back to the customer in terms of a credit because you did something quicker, or whether or not there's extras. It tells you exactly what it is, and you can add it on as a line item to your final invoice. Lastly, negotiation. This comes up. Homeowner says, well, you know, you said this was the extra. Do you think we could meet in the middle here on it, right? It happens. The thing is that happens when you haven't communicated with them all the way along and you surprise them at the end. If you're keeping them in the loop and you're being transparent, then there shouldn't be any need to negotiate what the additional costs are. You've tracked them, you've showed them why they were important, what they needed to be done because you communicated that. And then at the very end, if they're really stuck on this and they're not willing to budge, you're about to wreck your relationship and your option for referrals and a future reputation or a future relationship with the customer, then I suggest that you add service, all right? Maybe you extend their warranty for them by an extra 6 months or a year. Maybe you throw something else in that isn't necessarily going to take up additional time, or at least at the end of the day doesn't cost you money on this project. Because at the end of the day, if you accounted for all your expenses, your overhead and everything else too, and the only extra thing you have is profit, then you're just gonna chew into your profit and that money's for you, okay? That's why we have the precision profit protocol that I teach all my clients. Lastly, change orders, because this is the key one here. When we talked about additional or unforeseen costs or that any changes may occur, we want to document it, okay? So first of all, what is a change order? It's a written agreement that outlines the modifications to the original scope of the work, okay? Specifying changes in design, materials, costs, timeline, and it requires approval from both the contractor and the client, okay? Both have to agree to this at the end of the day, because this is a new contract altogether, all right? How do we do that in a professional manner during a project? Well, we discuss the changes with the client and with your team lead. Often that's where it starts, all right? They would then submit the changes to you. You would put it together in writing, include, like I talked about, the cost, dimensions, material selections, maybe a payment structure, changes to the original contract, like project length, things like that. And you would have both of you sign it, okay? Both of you need to agree with it. It should have information about the payment structure, like I mentioned. Like if it's $1,000 of a change order, maybe that just gets tagged on in the end, but put that in. That'll be due upon final receipt with the balance plus or minus any adjustments from the original contract. What if the change order is $20,000, $30,000, $40,000? They decide they want to put the pool in all of a sudden halfway through the project, right? Now we're $100,000. Whatever it is, you need a new payment structure, okay? Make sure this is all really well documented. Document everything throughout the project so that you know where your costs are. And at the end of the day, you follow this and you use these 5 things to help you handle your budget overages. I guarantee you at the end of the project, not only will you have gotten paid for the overages, but you'll also have a relationship that's intact and one that will then lead to getting more customers at the end of the day. And if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about what I do, my coaching and the program, then make sure to go ahead and click the link in the description below. You can book an intro call with me. It's about a 45-minute call where we'll dissect your business, what's going on, what your goals are, and whether or not I can help you. Thanks for your time.